Now our next guest is an actor and a brilliant director, having made such classics as, and I know he's so sick of hearing this, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, my favorite of all time, This is Spinal Tap. The list goes on and on and on. Reiner is also so extremely outspoken on politics. Tonight he joins me on set for a little conversation, a little back and forth. Hey, Rob, how are you?
Nice to see you. Nice to be here. We ran into each other at a restaurant last night, and now we're talking.
See,
here.
It's good. Yeah. It's purple territory. Yeah. We have some purple territory. I'm all about purple.
We should have negotiated this thing, and maybe we wouldn't have a government shutdown.
Yeah, last night the first thing Reiner said is,
talking.
Are they going to shut the government down? I'm like, well, I'm here in L.A. I want to talk about Hollywood stuff, and he wants to talk about politics. Yeah. You started this committee with David Fromm, as an old friend of mine. About investigating the whole Russia connection.
Right.
You know, I first read about it. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I kind of laughed. I'm like, what the heck is he? A Hollywood guy, and then the guy who writes for The Atlantic. They're going to do, what, like 20 lawyers in Washington with an unlimited budget can't do? Explain that whole thing.
Well, first of all, we have a really good advisory board. James Clapper and Michael Hayden, Mike Morrell.
Big fans of Trump, all those.
You know, and John Brennan has now been involved. Yeah. So we've got some, pretty knowledgeable people in the intelligence community. And the reason I started it is because, I just felt that the public was not really understanding the gravity of what has happened. And warfare has changed. We have this cyber war now, which you can't feel. If we had been attacked, let's say, the buildings get knocked down, or a bomb blows up in New York City, everybody says, "Oh, we gotta do something."
Well, why just Russia, and why not China too? I mean, they took 50 million of our personnel files, inclling mine.
Yeah, listen, there's a lot of cyber.
Why focus on Russia? Why not China?
Because that was the most recent, and very effective. Very effective in what they were able to pull off. And it's nothing new. I mean,
what do you mean when they pull off? Because there's no proof that they changed the outcome of the election.
Well,
Hillary didn't lose because of Russia.
No, I'm not suggesting they did or not. I don't know about that. What I do know is that they were able to have thousands of trolls and bots and go through Facebook and take out ads. And every campaign, Republican, Democrat, you put out your propaganda. You always do. If paid ads on television weren't good, you wouldn't see people do it.
That doesn't mean Trump colluded with Russia. Russia's really good at what it's doing.
I didn't say they did. I'm not talking about that, because whether or not there was coordination between Trump and the Russians. That's for Mueller and the congressional investigations to determine. That's not what this is about. This is about being attacked in a new way of warfare, and whether or not we're going to be up to the task. I think we fell asleep after the Soviets collapsed in the Cold War.
Were you worried about the Soviets back then? I mean, I was in college at Dartmouth.
Well,
and I don't remember Hollywood rallying to Ronald Reagan or the Soviet Union. I remember the opposite actually happening.
But before that, I'm way older than you, and we had to hide under desks.
Yeah, but you weren't supporting Reagan, right? You couldn't stand Reagan back in the 80s.
No, I wasn't a supporter of Reagan.
But he took on the Russians. You're taking on the Russians, so you're like a modern-day Reagan now. You're taking on the Russians, like Reagan took on the Russians when it was actually mutually assured destruction. Now we're beyond mutually assured destruction. Still not great, but Russia's economy is smaller than France's.
Yes, it is. But here's what is smart about Putin. We basically beat them during the Cold War.
And he wants Mother Russia back. Yeah. We know this movie. We know how it ends.
But they spent themselves into oblivion trying to keep.
Because of Reagan. Yeah.
Well, because of a lot of people.
Strength,
a lot of different presidents helped to do that. But Putin figured out for $500 million, very inexpensive thing, I can weaponize cyber war. And what people have to understand, the capacity that cyber war, not just invading an election, there's blowing up.
I got you, but look at what Putin did during Obama. I want to get to the fun stuff in a moment.
This isn't the fun stuff?
Now, for me, talking about the other stuff is fun, and you talk about politics. Isn't that funny? We're like on each other's topics.
Yeah.
But, Putin did pretty well in the Obama years. I mean, he went into Crimea, obviously, the Ukraine. He obviously grew his popularity at home. So the idea that like Trump would be some, nirvana for Putin, I never really did get that, because he did really well in the Obama-Clinton era. They didn't do the reset. The reset failed. So, there's so much. Let's go on to another.
But Obama did. Whether or not you think they were effective, did have sanctions after they invaded Crimea. There's been a lot of talk of removing those sanctions. We had sanctions passed by 98-2 in the Senate and virtually everybody in the House.
Russia. It's like the Brady Bunch. Marsha. Russia. I mean, at some point this becomes comical, right? It becomes funnier than the stuff you produce, which is my favorite. Just a favorite. Are you worried that some of this?
You don't care about this stuff.
I do care about it, but I think that you're going down the wrong rabbit hole. It's a rabbit hole. But let's talk about what politics does to art. Okay. Politics and art, they've always had a connection. Obviously, there's always been a connection, and the conservatives in Hollywood, the ones that will actually rear their heads, say that there's a blacklist in Hollywood, that if you express support for Trump, basically it's like what Harvey Weinstein did. The people who went, you don't work.
I don't know that there's a blacklist, but I can tell you that the vast majority of artists, directors, writers, actors are liberal. There's no question about that. And there's a reason for that, because a liberal have a very big view of things. This is what I've said. I said this to Bill Clinton in the Oval Office. I said, the difference between Republicans and Democrats? Republicans know they're right. Democrats entertain the possibility that they might be wrong. And that's the big difference. And that's why you see liberals drawn to the arts, because it's more of an open-minded kind of thing. And I'm open-minded. Look, I came on your show.
I love it. This is what it should be about. I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, are you bothered, looking back in the 70s, obviously, I grew up watching, you as Michael Stivic, the liberal do-gooder on All in the Family.
Right.
Did it bug you that Archie Bunker was more beloved than your character? Because you are kind of your character. He was a liberal who ended up playing this kind of, this blue-collar, kind of irascible guy but he had a lovable side to him.
He did, and we got a lot of criticism because people were saying...
Loved him. They
were saying, how dare you make a lovable bigot?
Right.
And we always said, he's a human being.
But
he loves his wife, he loves his daughter, and that makes him human.
But you say Trump, you said he's a racist, you said he...
Well, he is.
He absolutely is not. Do I look like a person who would hang around with someone who is racist? I don't hang around with him, but I've known him for 15 years. I will tell you this, and you have to believe me.
I'm going to listen.
You might think he's...
I just go by what he says.
You might disagree with his policies. That's fine. I have no problem with that. He's not a racist.
Then why did he spread this thing about Obama? Why did he spread this thing about Obama not being a citizen?
I disagree with that. There were a lot of people who did that who were not.
That's a very racist thing.
He is not a racist. If you're a racist, I don't think Oprah Winfrey would have been friends with him for all those years. That's just ridiculous.
And why does he say that there's good on both sides when there's Nazis marching?
Well, sometimes he's not the most precise in his linguistics.
And why does he say S-hole countries?
Like Obama said, S-house or S-place, S-storm about Libya, or Lindsey Graham, is he a racist who talked about the hellhole of Mexico and Central America? I mean, again...
I'm just putting all of his things together. Central Park 5, not renting to black people. There's a thing there.
Anyway, so I'm getting back to the character.
I think he's a racist.
Okay, but you don't know him. Like, I don't say people are racist.
I don't know him that well. I've met him one time.
I know, and you thought he was a narcissist. Like, nobody in this town is narcissistic. When you see, I read your comment about Trump. He's one of the biggest narcissists. I'm like, you hang out with the people who read other people's lines for a living.
You bet.
Okay,
and I can tell you.
And they look at themselves in the mirror all day. And look, I'm in television too, but come on. I mean, narcissism?
Okay, so let me tell you, I work with the biggest narcissists in the world.
Yeah.
Actors are the biggest narcissists in the world. They want attention. Yeah. They want to be loved.
Yeah.
They don't even come close to this guy in the one time I spend with him. I was with him with Billy Crystal, and it was his...
Another person I adore.
It was at his hotel for one of his fights. They had a fight.
But I mean, narcissism.
And he basically only talked about himself the whole time.
Well, that's a shock. I mean, Bill Clinton was a smooth operator, but he might be better at hiding his narcissistic tendencies. Clinton, Obama, Reagan actually was not narcissistic at all, and I used to work for him, not narcissistic, but most of JFK.
Well, usually you get to that position, you need to be loved, you need that much of attention.
Do you have, so Archie, people compare Trump to Archie Bunker, okay, fine, whatever. But
Well, they're
Archie
both
was
from
lovable.
Queens.
They're both lovable. But you don't see anything redeeming at all in Donald Trump. Not one thing.
I don't see him. I don't see him be lovable to, let's say, for instance, he's walking up the stairs to get into the Air Force One, and it's raining, and he has the umbrella.
You watch him closely, my goodness.
Well, I mean that's what you do as you observe people, and his kid and Melania are getting rained on, and he doesn't do. And it's just a thing about looking out for other people, caring about other people.
Well, so the good economy doesn't. I mean, I see.
Well, that's not about caring. I'm talking about a human being caring and loving and being a loving person towards somebody else. But the government doesn't love.
Government's not a love. Government doesn't serve a function as loving.
I'm not saying the government should love. I'm talking about him as a human being to love.
But again, back to my question. You're judging his family. I literally
I'm not judging his family. I'm judging his behavior.
Okay, so Bill Clinton.
I'm looking at his
Clinton
behavior.
got oral sex in the Oval Office when his wife was sleeping. When his wife was sleeping. In the residence. We had LBJ, who you just did this movie about, and you've said really nice things about LBJ, and he's a fascinating character, obviously. I think had it not been for the Vietnam War, he would have gone down as one of the greatest presidents of all time. Second to Roosevelt. LBJ passed more legislation than anybody, your LA Times interview.
Which is true.
True, but also he had another side to him.
Yes, he did.
Urinating in a sink, inviting people into his bathroom, showing off his abdominal scar.
I showed the bathroom scene.
Yeah, exposing his private parts. After a while, nothing surprises a biographer like Robert Dallek of Lyndon Baines Johnson. He bragged about his womanizing. He said he was more of a womanizer than JFK.
Right.
My point being, judging people in a full context. He had a lot of flaws. There were personal flaws.
I'm not judging Donald Trump by his.
You just don't like his policies. I mean, you don't like his policies.
No. That's not true. I don't like his policies. That is true.
The booming economy.
But I don't like the way he conducts his life, the way he treats other people.
But you just did a movie about LBJ who had horrible personal flaws.
I don't like a man who goes like this with towels, with paper towels. I don't like that. I don't like the way he treats other people.
Okay, so the paper towel throw. He's not, was he a big athlete?
No.
Was this in the Houston, the hurricane deal?
Wow, you're making some really bad arguments,
I
Laura.
don't think so.
You're smart as hell. You know better than to say when I make that comment, I'm talking about the way his behavior, the way in which he behaves towards other people. That's all. That's all I'm talking about. I'm not talking about anything else.
Okay, just before we let you go, your dad is such an amazing man and talent.
Well, I'm going to say you're great because you try to find the differences and the tension even when there shouldn't be. I think that's pretty admirable.
Well, I don't think it's a conversation, and I'm just. Yeah. And again, Rob Reiner is someone who actually should be lauded because he's someone who doesn't agree with probably a lot of what I think. That's fine. But he actually comes in for a conversation. Yeah. And I'll tell you, Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill, Rob, a lot of them won't come on this show because I actually read legislation.
Who doesn't come on?
Lindsey Graham, Jeff Flake, John McCain. Well, he's not feeling well. But, Cory Gardner, a lot of Republicans. They're afraid to answer questions about their job. And I find that to be disturbing. The fact that you're willing, and you've gone on with Tucker, I know, you went on with O'Reilly. And that is really admirable.
Have a conversation.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And more people should do that. And we do have a lot in common, believe it or not, because I love your craft and what you've done in Hollywood. We don't get into politics. Politics is about that much of life. But your dad is someone I also really, really admire. He's 95 years old.
Yeah, he's going to be 96 in 2 months.
That's as old as my mother would have been.
He gets up every morning and he says, if I'm not in the obits, I eat breakfast.
I know. I just read the obits to make sure I'm not in them.
Yeah.
And what life lesson did you learn from him that you carry with you when you get up in the morning?
The biggest thing I got from him is the way in which he conducted his career, the way in which he treated other people, and the way in which he did his work. It wasn't like he sat me down and taught me. I just watched the way he behaved and how he handled his career. And it was like a regular guy, So that's what I got from him more than anything.
Hey, thanks for being here.
Hey, it's my
really
pleasure.
Fun. Will you come back on?
Yes, absolutely. We'll talk about, maybe the government will be running. Maybe there won't be any show here because there'll be no government.
I'm turning the lights off right now. Yeah. Reiner's turning the lights off.